Well, last year our family moved out of a home that we had lived in for over 9 years. When you start packing up boxes, it is amazing the amount of stuff you find that you have accumulated. And I didn't only have my own belongings to sort through, but belongings that I have inherited. Things that I don't know what to do with, but I don't feel I have a right to get rid of. For instance, I have my great grandfather's report card from Germany, from 1851. I'm not going to frame it. I don't even have my own report cards. And I don't think a museum wants it. But after 150 plus years, who am I to recycle it? You see the dilemma. It's times like these that it has been helpful to watch reruns of episodes of Clean Sweep. That is a show that always inspires. And at the very least, I can say, well, at least things could be worse. In this show, they have a clean sweep team, a crew, that comes into a family's home. Usually they have to make a path. And the team helps the family to prioritize all of their belongings into groups of keep, sell, or toss. Sometimes it is downright laughable about the kinds of junk that people just want to hold on to for dear life. And I can laugh because my junk is so much more precious. What is that saying? One person's junk is another person's treasure. Well, I've watched it get so bad on that show that the producers come in and end up bribing the family to get rid of some of their things. And other times, the crew is a little bit more creative, and they surprise the family with reshaping and redesigning their collections into some kind of artful display that really pays tribute to it. At the end of the show, after the family has purged of all that they had thought was essential, they come back into their home, and it is gorgeous. They discover they have a dining room. They always had a dining room, but now they can actually dine in it. And a living room that they can actually live in. And bedrooms that they can actually sleep in. With all of that reflection and hard work, their home has been renewed and restored. Well, that's what we do during Lent. We reflect and renew and restore as we focus on our relationship with God. And that's exactly what happens in John's Gospel today. It's interesting to note that this is one of the few stories that can be found in the Synoptic Gospels, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and also in John. One of the main differences is that in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, this story comes towards the end of the Gospels. It comes during Jesus' final trip to Jerusalem. It sets the tone for the Passion. And it's maybe one of those final straws that breaks the camel's back in irritating the Pharisees and Sadducees. But in John's Gospel, you notice we're in chapter 2, right up in the front. One of the only real stories that happens right before is Jesus' first known miracle of turning water into wine at the wedding in Cana. And so Jesus' tantrum, as I like to call it, is really Jesus' first public act in ministry. What an interesting choice for our first impression. Well, Jesus is just simply cleaning house. He comes to the temple and sees that it needs a clean sweep. It makes sense to begin his ministry with a fresh start. And John has a different perspective. You see, in John's gospel, Jesus isn't accusing the money changers of cheating or swindling or taking advantage of the poor. Here, Jesus is simply objecting that there is a market. But the thing is, there always was a market. There needed to be a market in order for people who traveled far away to come to the temple and to make sacrifices. So John's making a point that that was the old past, and that Jesus is the new life. And temple sacrifices, and really the temple itself, is now obsolete because Jesus is on the scene. Word made flesh. All things new. God revealed. As we reflect on what it means that Jesus reveals God through cleansing the temple, it's only natural this Lent to reflect on how Jesus reveals God by cleansing us. What would it look like if Jesus sent the clean sweep crew into our lives? Where would they even begin? If they were to start in, say, our metaphorical dining rooms, well, what is it that we fill ourselves up with? What are our appetites and desires? Do we hunger only for wealth and power, prestige, privilege? Do we long for revenge? What is it that we crave? Does any of that satisfy? And then if they were to move into our family rooms or our living rooms, what is it that we are living for? Does our Creator have any priority on our calendars? Or do we just kind of squeeze Jesus in when we have a free moment? Do we bury our talents? Or do we serve with them? Do we hold on to grudges? Can we let go of that pain? Are we able to have gratitude for each day? Or do we just grumble about how nothing ever seems to go our way? And then in our bedrooms, where we're supposed to find rest and peace, can any of us really follow Jesus' command and refrain from worrying? Or do we toss and turn all night, holding on to each stress and each anxiety as if our lives depended on it. And we all have that hall closet. The one with the skeletons. It's dark and scary in there with all of our isms, our prejudices, and our past mistakes. Can we confess and receive absolution? Can we forgive even ourselves? Well, this Lent, if we really mean it when we say that we want Jesus to live in our lives, we need to take some time to reflect and allow Christ to purge us of our iniquities. To ask Jesus to do a clean sweep of our hearts and our minds, to drive out all that holds us back from being what God intends, so that we can be renewed and restored. Because what we will see will be more beautiful than we can ever imagine after we are able to get rid of all of the excess junk. When we can pry out of our hands our sin and regret. Jesus comes to us and fills us up with precious treasure. As the psalmist says, create in us clean hearts, O God, and renew and restore a steadfast spirit within us. Amen.